In this video, I'll be showing you 3 simple ways to make yarn flowers or sea stars. If you want to go straight to a specific technique, this video will have the chapters clearly marked, so you should be able to navigate easily to the technique that you prefer. Just to show you, this is what the first style looks like. It can be minimalist flowers for forest coasters like this one, or it can be sea stars for coral coasters like this one and this one. This is what the second style looks like. The petals are a bit thicker than this first one. You don't need to put the knot in the middle if you want just thicker petals without the center. I think this might be the most complicated of the 3, but that's because I don't have embroidery experience. And this is the third one. This is the technique I enjoy the most. I would recommend making a smaller center. This is a bit supersized, but this is just an example. I call these puff flowers. So they're made up of 6 balls, 5 petals, and 1 center. You can also make 4 petals and 1 center. And this is super simple to make. All of them are quite simple, but this second one I think just takes more time and patience. Depending on the kit that you got, the product photo will show you one type of flower technique, but I made this video so that you can choose what kind of flower you actually want to make, and you might even want to use more than one technique together. And for this example, we will be using the milk yarn that comes in your kits, but really you can use any yarn you have at home, especially if you want to put even more flowers compared to the original design. For the first technique, we'll be using this mushroom coaster for demonstration and the yellow yarn that comes with it. So once you've found the end of your yarn, pull out 2 forearm lengths of yarn, like so, and then cut. Here are my scissors. Okay. All right, and then look for your weaving needle or your darning needle, depending on what you call it, and thread your needle and knot the ends, just like you usually do when hand sewing. Choose where you want the center of your flower to be. I think I want the center of my flower to be here. So in that case, I will put my needle there. And don't pull all the way so that the knot doesn't come out. This is what it looks like at the moment. Then we make our first petal, and I think I want my petal to be this long. Then in that case, I will put the needle there and pull it through, but not all the way through. So this is what the back looks like. As you're pulling your needle up, drape that tail over the needle, essentially locking the yarn in place. Don't pull too tightly, because if you pull this too tight, the yarn can then disappear. If I pull this too tight, the yarn will then disappear into the grass. So you can adjust that by lifting it with your needle like that. And then let's make the second petal. To do that, let's enter through the middle again and then decide where we want our second petal. So I think I want my petal to look like that. Then I will put the needle here. Might be too short. I find that when I make these, they come out shorter than I expected them. Careful that this doesn't happen, and the flower petals will come out neater if you assist the thread as they go into the canvas and doesn't twist like this. So you see, that's what happens when they're not aligned, but this is just really a simple fix. You can just pull the back and then adjust with your needle if you need to. So no biggie, almost everything is fixable. There we go. Okay, let's do our third petal. Enter through the middle and okay, I want my petal to be like this. So in that case, I will put my needle here. Got stuck again. I will assist my thread like this. And there we are. That's our third one. Let's do our fourth one. Just a little. Fourth flower petal. And you see here that mine has twisted because I didn't assist it from the beginning. But that's okay. The thing about nature is that it's not always symmetrical, so. Okay, so now let's make the last petal. There we are. So, this is what it looks like. And then we can adjust before we tie it at the back. And then when you're happy with your flower, turn your project over and go through, just go under threads like that. And don't pull it all the way through yet. Cut and pull one out like so, and pull the other one all the way through, and now you can knot it. Again, don't pull too tightly so that your thread won't disappear under the eyelash yarn at the front. Okay, just knot that, making sure it's not too tight, so you can adjust it at the front if you need to. And here's our first flower using the first technique. So you can use the same technique to make sea stars for coral coasters, such as this one, or this one. As it can be a bit difficult to see on the actual canvas, let me start this second technique by showing you a diagram. We're going to come in through the center, and then we will make a petal like this with a loop of yarn. And then we'll be coming in through here, inside, and then going through the back here. Essentially, we will be locking the loop in place like that. So the end product could have 4 petals or 5 petals. Okay, let's say, sorry, it's not even, but you should get the idea, right? So essentially these will be loops, and we will be coming in from the inside, and then here towards the back, essentially locking this loop in place. And again, we will be coming in through the center, making a loop, coming in through here, and coming back like that, essentially locking this in place. And again here, and then like that. So now let me show you with actual thread. All right, so let's begin with the petals. Take the yarn color of your choice for the petals and cut 6 forearm lengths of that yarn. So we can do that by pinching with your fingers like this, and then measuring all the way up to the crook of your elbow, and doing that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Once you have more experience with this technique, you can use shorter lengths of yarn that you think is appropriate, but just in case, let's use a longer one for now. Okay, so thread that. Knot at the end, as you would when hand sewing. And just like the first technique, look for where you want the center of your flower to be. I want it to be here, so then I'm pushing my needle through like this and pulling the yarn through gently, and then making sure that my yarn isn't twisted. I will then make my first loop. So I want my loop to be about like that. And then I will then pinch this, or pin that down with my thumb, and put the needle back in the same hole where the yarn came from. And the trick with this is to guide the yarn all the way so that they don't get twisted like that. And I've done this before, and this is always how my flowers end up looking a bit crazy, which is fine. Here's what it looks like now. Don't pull all the way through. And we're going to lock that petal down by coming in from the back. So we're going to come in from the back here in the inside of the petal, right? Okay, so there we are. And I will pull gently. There we are. And then lock the petal down by putting my needle in the outer edge of the petal into the same hole, ideally. But if you make it a bit further, it's just going to look a bit longer like this, which is fine if you're okay with that. But I will put it back into the same hole, thereabouts, so that it's as close to my petal as possible. That's our first petal done. And let's do another one by coming into the center. Okay, for simplicity's sake, I think I will make a 4-petal flower, but you're welcome to make 5. So I will just rotate the canvas like this and do the same. So just pull gently so that the first petal isn't affected too much. And then make a loop. Kind of decide how you want the loop to look. And then put the needle through the center. Pressing down so that your yarn doesn't disappear, or you might have a better technique than me. Honestly, I don't have embroidery experience, so I'm not the best at this. Okay, so it's looking like my strands aren't even yet. Okay, so this is what the second petal looks like currently. And we're gonna lock it down by coming in through the middle, the inside of the petal, like that. And you can see my yarn is twisted here. That's fine. Let's just continue. And then pull gently. Can make some adjustments maybe. And then we will lock the petal down by putting the needle on the outside edge of the petal like so. And there we go. We can adjust it a little bit like that. And then let's make the third one. Put it in. And then make a loop like that. Okay, and then put it in through the center, making sure that your yarn isn't twisted. Pull. Okay, here we are. You can see here that my yarn is twisting. Then I will put the yarn in the middle, inside of the petal, and just pull a little bit. And then lock it in by putting the needle back in the same hole. This came out a bit shorter than I wanted, but that's okay. We can just continue. In the last petal, here we are, make the loop and go through the middle. Okay, so put
the yarn with the needle in and pull, and then lock. Yeah, there we are. And that is what it looks like. So then we just adjust, and you can see this is the first technique and this is the second technique. So it's a bit crazy at the back, but don't worry about that. Okay, so let's secure your thread at the back, and do that by going under some of your threads here, and then don't pull all the way through, just until here maybe, and then cut, and then pull one of the strands out like so. So you're left with something like this. Sorry, it's a bit weird here. And then just knot that together twice, double knot. Don't pull too tight so that it doesn't pull on your work at the front. There. Okay. So cut that off. There we are.
Okay, so for this third and last technique, we will be making puff flowers. And I find this technique to be far simpler than the second one, but it does take a tiny bit more time. So we will start with the petals. I have white here. You don't have to cut any length of yarn, so then you can just work with a ball of yarn at the end. But I don't have a lot of white yarn left, so this is what it looks like for me. And take your yarn and wrap it around your finger loosely 20 times. Okay, so let's say you're done wrapping and that the tail of your yarn is still attached to the ball. So take about this length. That's about 25 centimeters. And then just cut. So now you will have something that looks like this, right? And then thread the end here into your weaving needle or your darning needle, like so. Okay, so you'll have something that looks like this, right? There we are. So now this is what it looks like at the moment. You can use a smaller needle if you want, but for the sake of demonstration, I'll be using this one. Okay, so insert the needle here and then insert it through the loop so that you can secure it and pull tightly, and do that another time. You see? And then when you're done with the two knots here, go over here to the top and enter again like so, and make knots there as well. Right. So this is my oopsie. Then you can just thread that again if that happens to you. Okay, and then knot. Pull tightly and make your last knot. So that's the second one. And then remove your finger, so you'll have something that looks like this. She's a bit messy. So depending on what kind of puff flower you want to make, you can make 4 petals or 5 petals or more. And Our goal is to tie them together so that they look like that. First, we will make the last puff ball, which is the center of our flower, using yellow thread. Okay, so again, drape the tail over your finger like this and pinch it and wrap 20 times. All right, and then cut about this much of a tail. I think 30 centimeters might be sufficient, but you can make it longer. Then thread it. And then again, go under and knot, and under and knot, and pull tightly. Then up here, under, and then knot, and under and knot. There you are. There you have it. The center of your flower. I'm going to make my flower by knotting the petals together. I will just knot these together twice, like that, you see, and then this milk yarn is quite slippery, so okay, so I have two attached now. Okay, so I will knot the third one, and I don't make them too tight so that I can move them around as I'm arranging them. Now we're knotting in our fourth one. Just double knotting. So, not too tight, so that they still lie flat. Like that. So this is where we are at the moment. And if you like this 4-petal look, you can go ahead and attach that to your canvas like that. But I'm going with 5 petals for this one. So I think I'm attaching, so this is my last petal. Okay, and then I'm going to tie the strands again together just to secure them all in kind of one center. Okay, so this is what mine looks like at the moment. And then let's say I want to attach this flower here. Then I will just thread half of it. I will attach this flower by threading half and then going through there where I want the center to be. And then pulling all the way through. There we are. And I will do the same for the other half, but going into another space on the canvas so that then I can knot all the threads at the back together and not have them pop out. And it's a bit difficult since it's so short, so just choose another space and pull it all together. Fix your flower, and there you are. You can secure this by just knotting twice. Then there you have your flower. And the final step is threading your center and then putting that through like so and pulling all the way. There you are. Cute little flower. You can stuff that in if you want to, or you can make your center smaller by let's say wrapping it 15 times instead of 20. Mine looks a bit oversized, doesn't it? But it's really cute. Once you have your center there, then you will just come and knot with the other threads, double knot, and then snip off the ends. And you'll have something that looks like this.